Hey guys, and welcome back to StudioOne with me, Gregor. Today I have a really cool video for you, I think, because it's all about breaking the rules in the mixing process. You see, Joe and I, we have a ton of videos here on our YouTube channel that teach you certain rules and how to mix, everything about compressors and equalizers, and we also have masterclasses for mixing and mastering on StudioOne Plus. Please check them out if you haven't already. But sometimes all of these things that we preach here and tell you to do just don't apply, and you have to do the exact opposite of what we're telling you. And I find this quite fascinating that you have like these rules that seem set in stone, and then at critical moments in the mixing process you have to find the exceptions and do the exact opposite. This has happened to me in this production where I reversed the order of insert effects in a way I would never do it normally. But in this case, it turned out to be the right choice, and I found it quite instructive. Hopefully you will as well. So I've built an EDM beat here pretty much with a pretty fat bass line, a kick and a snare, and some driving percussions and hi-hats. And this is what it sounds like right now. Take a listen. Okay, so I'm already quite happy with the sounds themselves, but I'd like to get a bit more of this genre typical ducking on the bass line. So every time that the kick drum happens, the bass audibly ducks down, not just to make headroom for the kick drum, which sits in the same frequency spectrum as the bass line, but also with strong creative intent, right? And so I thought, what would be like a cool way to get a super obvious sounding sidechain compression going? And instead of going for my regular sidechain compression with the compressor in StudioOne, if you want to learn how to use that, please check out my tutorial on sidechain compression that you find linked right here. But instead I went for the X-Tram. And the X-Tram is a pretty cool plugin that also comes with StudioOne. It's essentially an LFO that you can set to different waveforms, and it even comes with a little step sequencer. And basically this can modulate either the volume or the panning of any signal that is applied on. And you have like a depth control here, so you could say, do you want this to happen with 100% wet, so that it's like a full modulation on off essentially, or do you want it more gradual? And you can also sync it to the song tempo, which is what I like. And importantly, for what we are going to do, you can also flip the phase. So here I had the sine wave selected, and if I just solo the bass line here, it sounds like this. We get very strong ducking. Probably want to have that around 74% or so. And if I don't flip the phase and we hear the kick drum, we can hear that the ducking is always happening at the wrong spot, right? Because we want to duck the downbeat and not the other way around. And so we can flip the phase so that the downbeat is clear, and only on the next eighth note, the bass line gets to full volume again. And then I thought, it's almost a bit too much. Like, the ducking is so obvious that the bass is almost vanishing whenever the kick drum happens. And I thought about a way that I could keep the awesome ducking effect that the X-Tram generates without having to have the bass lose a lot of its punch and power. And so I looked at my insert chain here, where I have the compressor in front of the X-Tram. Usually that would make a ton of sense, because as you might know from my compressor video manual tutorial that's linked also in the top corner, the compressor makes the difference between quiet and loud smaller. And why would I want to do that when I just increased the difference in dynamics between loud and quiet with the ducking? Wouldn't that essentially undo the ducking? That's what I thought as well, until I tried it and found that in this order, the bass is much more prominent and stands out throughout the mix. And I still hear that creative ducking effect after all. So this is the compressor before the ducking effect, like I usually do it. And pay attention as I'm switching the compressor behind the X-Tram now. Let me undo that. I don't know, the compressor, the whole bass line just comes out way better when the compressor is behind the X-Trap. Hopefully you can hear that as well. So in this case, really my ears overruled my theoretical knowledge of audio production, which was quite an inspiring moment. Especially when you do a lot of mixing, I'm sure you can relate to this. We all have our certain little rules and orders in which we like to apply our insert effects. Like, for example, I like to put my equalizers before the compressor when I'm cutting something so that the compressor doesn't react to the wrong frequencies. And I like to put the equalizer behind the compressor when I'm boosting, because otherwise, when I'm boosting before the compressor, I find that it kind of mitigates the effect. And this might not be so mind-blowing to you, but I would never put a compressor behind a ducking effect usually. And when it turned out that this is exactly what I had to do, I kind of felt inspired and wanted to share it with you. So what about you? Have you ever had an experience like that during mixing where you broke your rules and it turned out to be the best decision? Let us know in the comment section. We'd love to hear about it. Thank you for watching.